Hi everyone. Today we are going to be beginning the muscles of the leg. So we are beginning on page 371 with Gastrocnemius and Soleus. Gastrocnemius and Soleus, page 371. These are the first muscles that we're going to talk about because they are the biggest in the area. And they do the most. So let's go to the book here. All right, Gastrocnemius and Soleus. Let's show these two. There they are. So Gastrocnemius has two heads and a calcaneal tendon, otherwise known as the Achilles tendon. Perhaps you've heard of it as your Achilles tendon. It can be called both, but the anatomical name is calcaneal tendon because it attaches directly to the calcaneus. Over here we have soleus. Soleus is so named because it looks like a solefish. If you have never seen a solefish, let me show you one real quick. Solefish. So here's a really interesting thing about a solefish. There it is. Now, obviously, that's not the, that's one that's already been skinned. Let's see one with the skin on it. Solefish, there we are. Ugly little suckers. Solefish have eyes on only one side of their body. So what they do is they burrow into the sand. Oh, here you can see the eyes really well. Two eyes on one side of their body. They burrow into the sand on the seafloor, kind of like this. And then what they do is they only have their little eyes. Those two little eyes on one side are the only things that are above the sand, and they can look around, and then when they see something come by that they want to eat, they can jump out and get it. So anyway, this does kind of look like a solefish. Okay. Soleus is deep to Gastrocnemius, but they share the calcaneal tendon. So this is kind of like the iliopsoas in that both of these muscles actually share a insertion, an attachment on the calcaneus. So they're both calcaneal tendon attachments. And because they both attach via the calcaneal tendon and kind of share that tendon, the Gastrocnemius and Soleus together are called triceps surae. Remember, the back of the leg here is called the sural area. That was from way back in the beginning in chapter 1, or unit 1, the sural area, right? So 1, 2, 3 heads, triceps surae. Okay, so it's kind of like iliopsoas. You put them together, they have a different name. Triceps surae is Gastrocnemius and Soleus. Okay, so Gastrocnemius, we're going to start with the origin and insertion. Gaster, remember again, way back in chapter 1, means stomach or having to do with the stomach. So Gastrocnemius actually means stomach of the leg, which is kind of wild, but that is the name of that word. So let's take a look at the origin and the insertion. So we can see the origins here. The condyles of the femur, posterior surfaces. Well, sure, you can see that the femur, I don't have a femur in here at the moment, but it doesn't matter, you can see it here. The femur has really big condyles, you know that, right? And then the intercondylar fossa here. Well, Gastrocnemius originates sort of just above those condyles, although the origin says condyles of the femur, posterior surfaces. And then Gastrocnemius origin here makes the bottom V of the popliteal endangerment area. So remember the top V, or top part of the triangle there, was the biceps femoris and the semisisters, right? We palpated this in class where that V kind of came together and we could palpate where it was tendon, 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 then it stopped being tendon, and we had a nice little V. Well, the bottom half of that endangerment area are the two attachments of the origin of gastrocnemius. The insertion then is the calcaneus via the calcaneal tendon, excuse me. That's the calcaneus, the heel bone, you already know that. And then actions, because it crosses two joints, it has to affect both joints. So it crosses the knee in the posterior, so it can flex the knee. It's not a strong knee flexor. I mean, that's what your hamstrings are for, but it can. What it is really good at, however, is plantar flexing the ankle. Plantar flexion, remember that's pedal to the metal, right? Or go up on your tippy toes, or if you're a dancer, go up in releve. That's plantar flexion. Gastrocnemius is a very strong plantar flexor. And so is Soleus. They're sort of twins. Not true synergists, because as you can see here, Soleus does not cross the knee, so it has no actions at the knee, which is why it's not a true synergist to gastrocnemius. Okay, so Soleus originates on the soleal line. Remember we talked about that? Here it is right here. That's the soleal line, origin of Soleus. Makes total sense. And then we also have the proximal posterior surface of the tibia and posterior aspect of the head of the fibula, which is this black splotch right here. Posterior aspect of the head of the fibula. There it is, right there. So all of this here is the origin of Soleus. Now, Soleus is a big, thick muscle that runs deep to gastrocnemius. Some of it is palpable, however, even though it is deep. These sections down here, this lateral side and this medial side, are palpable because, as you can see, gastrocnemius is more of a superior muscle. It turns into tendon about halfway down the calf. Soleus, on the other hand, has muscle continuing all the way down close to the medial and lateral malleolus. So you can palpate these on either side of the gastrocnemius tendon. We'll do that in class, of course. But if you're palpating around on your own self, if you put yourself in a figure 4, so you're sitting at your desk here and you cross one leg over the other at the ankle and make a 4, if you palpate just down the side of your lower leg, the side that's facing you, and if you're wearing pants, it would be right where your seam is. Once you get down about halfway down your leg, you can feel gastrocnemius. It's going to feel a little tighter or a little different than you can feel Soleus. You can feel gastrocnemius too. It's really easy. It's big and bulky and round. You can't miss it. Soleus, on the other hand, is thinner, but it is right next to the bone, so you should be able to feel it. It might be a little sore, so just be careful. If not, no worries. We'll definitely do this in class. Okay, so the origin of calcaneus is the same. The insertion of calcaneus is the same as the insertion of gastrocnemius. It is the calcaneus via the calcaneal tendon. And the only action for Soleus is plantar flexion. It happens to be a very strong plantar flexor, however, and is sometimes called the second heart because there are blood vessels that are deep to Soleus, specifically veins. Veins help move blood back up to the heart against gravity. Soleus has a really strong contraction in plantar flexion. So it can help squoosh, for lack of a better term, squoosh or push the blood via the veins back up to the heart. So muscle contraction actually helps move blood back up to the heart as well. Though we have not really talked about that concept, that'll be covered in physiology, but Soleus is called the second heart because of its strong contraction and its ability to move blood back up to the heart. Oh, there's a little soulfish. I forgot that was at the bottom of the page now. That's new to this version. Okay. Gastrocnemius and Soleus. Let's take a look on visible body. Let's turn him around for a second. Okay, perfect. Gastrocnemius, of course, are these right here. They are the most superficial muscle of the leg. And you can see the origins here, how they actually originate above the condyles here, right here, gastrocnemius. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to completely hide gastrocnemius here. This one right here is Soleus then. Okay. So you can see, and look, it's even peeking out over here on either side. You can see that the muscle itself is more distal than the muscle fibers of gastrocnemius. So this is where we will be palpating Soleus on either side. Okay. And then of course, this is the calcaneal tendon or Achilles tendon. See, oops. Can't move that out of the way. Oh, well, it says Achilles tendon, and then in parentheses, it says calcaneal tendon. So your visible body calls it Achilles tendon primarily. I think that's interesting. All right, anyway. Okay, so that's it for gastrocnemius and Soleus. We will continue with plantaris and popliteus in another video. Stay tuned.